This one is going to be my favorite video. And you know why? We're talking about Shadow. So to end out the fearless year of Shadow, because we are reaching the end, we're already in December. Jeez, this year has gone fast. I wanted to make a love letter to Shadow. Well, and especially because he's my favorite character, I think it's only right that I make a dedicated video to him. And before I actually get to talking about him, because it's almost the end of the year, I just want to say thank you everyone for, well, finding my channel, continuously watching my videos, engaging with my content. It means a lot, but I just want to say thank you for showing up and watching my content, and I hope I can continue to make really good content going forward. But now, let's talk about Shadow, because I'm really excited to talk about him. It's definitely clear that we are in a renaissance era for Sonic, which I mean, that's what everyone's calling it. And because of that, thankfully, we're going back and we're able to correct some of the mistakes that Sega has done to these characters, maybe more so, well, maybe they are mistakes, but just not making them caricatures of themselves. And clearly we've seen that correct itself. We've seen the correction made to Shadow with specific things like Dark Beginnings and Sonic X Shadow Gens, and the movie isn't out yet, but I am very confident that they are going to execute Shadow's character very well and translate it very well into the movie universe. And guys, I am so excited for that movie. I can't tell you, I am so excited. I'm gonna bring my Shadow Build-A-Bear. I got the Shadow Build-A-Bear. I'm gonna bring the Shadow Build-A-Bear and wear my shirt with Shadow and holding coffee. I'm just so excited, guys. I'm gonna like freak out. I'm gonna go livid. But since they're going back and they're starting to correct things with characters, which honestly the only one that we've seen being corrected or being handled better is Shadow. We didn't really get much of Amy, Tails, and Knuckles in Frontiers. We did, sort of, but it wasn't anything like Shadow has gotten, the treatment Shadow has gotten, because he had a whole game segment dedicated to him. So I feel like I'm a bit more confident talking about how Shadow's direction is much better than it was than honestly any of the other characters right now. I'm just thankful we can go back to those traits that I loved about Shadow when I was 6 years old. I fell in love with him at 6 years old because of those specific traits, and to see those being washed away during the meta era in the early 2010s, it wasn't what I wanted. And it was sad, but I'm thankful that we can go back to that. And he continues to be my favorite character, and honestly, even more of my favorite character now that we're actually giving him the respect he deserves. Guys, I gotta admit something. I'm in love with Shadow the Hedgehog. Yes, I know. It's so surprising. I know, it's crazy. I would marry him. I don't think he'd marry me, but I would marry him. But anyway, but on a serious note, I love this hedgehog, y'all. Sonic and Shadow are like my two comfort characters. But of course, I will say, I don't know. I can't even say if Sonic and Shadow, I can't even say if I love, no, I'm being ridiculous and I'm lying to myself. Yes, I like Shadow more than Sonic, but I will always love Sonic. They're like on equal par, but when we're talking like, who would I choose in a room with just the two of them? Yeah, probably Shadow. Sorry, Sonic. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but no. But the truth is, if there wasn't a Sonic, there wouldn't be a Shadow. So I gotta give that little blue guy credit. I just resonate with this character, not because I can really relate to him personally. This is one of those situations where I like a character, but I can't really relate to certain aspects of their personality or their personal decisions. Some of them I can, and a lot of them I can't. But that doesn't prevent me from resonating with a character just because I can't relate completely. One of the things that I am so fond about with Shadow's character, and I mentioned this again, my Maria Robotnik Shadow and Disability video. If you have not watched that, please go watch that. It is a very genuine video and I very much love it, and I would almost say it's my magnum opus, but I don't think so, because maybe this video will be. Who knows? Anyway, I absolutely love their connection together and the way that Shadow values Maria. And again, I always say this constantly, as somebody who is disabled, it hits very close to home, and it really warms my heart to see a character like that love somebody who is not able to contribute in a way an able-bodied person would, somebody who doesn't have those struggles, somebody who isn't sick. He's able to love someone just by who they are and just by her being and what she contributes with how she makes people feel rather than what she can do for people. That will always be a key point to why I love him so much. And I'm very happy that this year specifically, we got to see more of that. It was like I had this foresight into the future. I made that video. For some reason, I knew I needed to make that video because it would just be a really cool, good video. And guess what? I wasn't wrong. They came in clutch. The writers came in clutch, and I was right. And I'm very happy that we got to see more of that connection between the two. One of my Twitter mutuals, this is so flattering, bro. One of my Twitter mutuals said that I have Amy's girlish intuition for Shadow. I've been predicting a lot of stuff with Shadow. That is so flattering. Don't feed into my delusions. Going off of that, something that is a key factor for Shadow is he tends to see people for who they are innately. So if you are a person that causes harm, he's not going to like you. If you are a person that is sincere and down to your heart and you're a genuine person with genuine intentions, he's going to see you for that. He may disagree with the way that you approach it, but he reads someone by their sincerity. Just because Sonic annoys him doesn't mean he sees Sonic as an enemy. They butt heads, but that doesn't mean he sees Sonic as something to destroy. Because deep down, Sonic is sincere at heart. His intentions are sincere. They're never deceptive. That's why I personally love interactions with Shadow and Amy. We haven't gotten a lot of that when it comes to the game canon, but if we're talking about murder of Sonic the Hedgehog and how Shadow was willing, it's so cute, guys. Oh my gosh. It's just so cute. I could talk for hours about Shadow and Amy and just their dynamic and how he's just more soft with her. He's a bit more like just careful with her, and that's because deep down in Amy's heart, already talked about this in my Amy video, she's passionate. She wears her heart on her sleeve and she wants to help people. She has that nurturing aspect of her, and I feel like Shadow can read that and it's very familiar to him. Maria, he's fine with her. He's very sweet to her. He's more gentle. That could be an example of him seeing genuine intentions. An example of him seeing somebody who doesn't have genuine intentions is Eggman. If he could kill that dude, he would, but Sonic won't let him kill him. Another example, Black Doom. He doesn't care. He's just there to destroy him. If you have bad intentions, he will kill you. If you have good intentions, he won't kill you. And another thing that confirms this is Sonic 06. Shadow in Sonic 06 is one of my favorite depictions. I think it's actually my favorite depiction of Shadow. But an example of that gray area is Silver. He could have killed Silver. He could have killed Silver. Silver was standing in the way, but he did not. When they had their altercation and when Shadow helped Sonic run off to go and help Elise because she was captured by Eggman, when he was fighting with Silver, it gave him a fucking kick in the back of the head. Poor guy. Then Silver was talking about how he can't give up, not when he's so close. Shadow realizes that Silver is being deceived because Mephiles is deceiving him. He connects the dots. The part in the cutscene where he literally shakes his head, like he's sort of pitying Silver, maybe not pitying him, but feeling bad for the way that he has been deceived. He can tell that Silver has genuine intentions to try to save his future because Silver believes it's his responsibility to save it. And so Shadow shows him the truth. He doesn't force him to come with him. He said, "Follow me if you want to know the truth." Shadow also has sincere intentions. He could read that from Silver. Therefore, he didn't kill him. That is the way that I see Shadow. A good sentence that I summarize this in is Shadow treats those by how they treat others. And that I vibe with, and that I can completely get and understand. Another thing I love about Shadow is Shadow's story arc is something that a lot of people can relate to. Having unfair things thrust upon you. Maybe you were born into a family that wasn't the best, a very dysfunctional family. Maybe you were born in an environment where where things felt like they were just completely against you. Income-wise, safety-wise, basic necessities not being given to you. Of course, it wasn't completely like that, but Shadow was kind of sadly and tragically screwed from the start. And it is not something that anybody asks for. He lost his sister. His main purpose was to save her. He was made with the mission to save Maria. That was his sole purpose. Then he lost his sole purpose. Not by his own hand, by others' hands. His father figure, his parental figure, betrayed him after this. And at first, his parental figure didn't even see him as anything to mess with. Didn't see him as a being with innate value. Only with Maria showing that she loved Shadow and had a genuine connection with him, that Gerald actually started to see Shadow as something that he could create a bond with, something that he could have these nice feelings for. And after Maria was taken away after Gunn invaded, Gerald decided to use Shadow as a pawn again and completely disregarded any prior sincere feelings he had for him. Shadow's memories were warped. They were messed with. His sister was taken away from him. His parental figure betrayed him. Everything was against him. But yet he persevered, even if it was with the wrong intentions at first. And it wasn't even his fault. It wasn't even his fault. He didn't know. He didn't know his memories were messed with. So he still had genuine, quote unquote, genuine intentions because he thought that that was his promise to Maria. He thought that was his truth. But then when he was reminded by Amy, the queen mentioned, he immediately jumped into action and corrected all of his wrongs. Because at the end of the day, Shadow may be a character where he is labeled as an anti-hero, but at the end of the day, he is still a genuine character. He will decide what he thinks is best, but he will protect. The way that I see it is he came from an alien race of conquerors. But he goes completely against what his blood was. I see Shadow as a protector. He made his own way. He found his own purpose after his sole purpose died and was killed and taken away from him, and he decided his own purpose. His own purpose was to use his powers the way that he saw fit, live out his promise to Maria to give people a chance, to give humanity a chance, to give the world a chance to be happy. And I honestly think personally, he also agrees with that promise. If Shadow did not agree with that promise and he did not have genuine intentions, he would have still killed the world for killing Maria. He truly is such a strong character, having everything actively working against you. But then yet you are able to push that all aside. It's not even an ego thing. I wouldn't even consider it an ego thing, but we all have an ego in one form or another, and an ego does not have to be inherently bad. An ego can be, it doesn't always have to be black and white. It can be something like there is healthy ego and there is negative ego. Shadow wasn't wallowing around in his sadness, even though he had every right to. He could have given into his ego of sadness and wallowed around in it and just rolled around in it, but he did not. And he decided to persevere and push through and correct the wrongs that happened, not just by his own hand in SA2, but others. Things that he had no personal responsibility for. He corrected those things when he did not have to. That is the peak definition of a strong character. He did not have to do that shit. He could have let the Black Arms invade. And also, but also, okay, it is a little funky because he came back in Sonic Heroes when he died in SA2, and then we jumped to Shadow 5, and then he didn't completely have his memories. So yes, he was kind of being a bitch when he was like, pathetic humans. It's like, okay, regardless, disregarding that, still in the canon ending, he still defeated the Black Arms because that's what he should have done. You know what I'm saying, all right? I'm the biggest Shadow 5 defender. Yes, that was a little hiccup. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, he still did the right thing. So that's what I'm saying. He could have let humanity suffer. He could have let the Black Arms invade humanity. But at the end of the day, he knew that wasn't the right thing. And he did not have to do that. He did not have to do that. He did not ask to be made with Black Arms DNA, with those little devil shits. He did not ask for that. He did not ask for his memories to be messed with. He did not ask for the Eclipse cannon. Yet he fixed every single thing that was thrust upon him. Now he's fine with Gun. Now he's fine, like he's fine with them, but he keeps tabs on them. Apparently he doesn't work with Gun anymore. I guess that makes sense. It's fine. I personally like Shadow Gun Agent, but it's whatever. He's chill with Abraham Tower. He defeated the Black Arms. I don't know if he's really worked through his trauma of Gerald turning on him, but whatever. We didn't really get to explore that much in Sonic X Shadow Generations, which is kind of sad, but it's alright. But then also, again, in Sonic 06, Mephiles, I mean, I guess it's confirmed. I mean, I've always seen that as like, could Mephiles even be a reliable narrator? It doesn't really matter anymore because the events of Sonic 06 didn't happen anymore because Elise blew out the flame. But I could never take Mephiles saying that humanity would turn on Shadow completely seriously, but I mean, I think that's the direction they were going to go with that. I think Mephiles was actually telling the truth there, but it's so hard to even see him as a reliable narrator because he was lying to Silver in the first place about who the Iblis Trigger was when it wasn't Sonic. So it's hard, but that doesn't take away from Shadow's character arc in Sonic 06. Once again, we're going back to this theme of things being against him. Humanity would turn against him because they needed someone to blame for the events that happened. And he's a powerful being. He didn't ask for his powers. He didn't ask to be alive. He didn't ask for the responsibilities that he was given. Yet, even when everything is against him, he fights and he will do what he sees is right. And it's just a story that so many people can just relate to and look up to. And even if they don't feel like they're strong enough to persevere and do the right thing, do the next right thing when everything looks like the cards are stacked against them, you can still do what you think is right. All right. Enough about the personality stuff. I gotta talk about how he looks. I just love how Shadow looks. I love his swooped up quills, a contrast to Sonic's downward quills. Somebody mentioned this. I watched a video recently. His eye color, which is red, and Sonic's green, they're opposites on the color wheels, showing more that he's an opposite of Sonic, but also similar to Sonic in that sense. He also has fangs, while Sonic doesn't have fangs in SA2. Personally, I'm a fang defender when it comes to all of the Sonic characters, but in SA2 specifically, they were going more for that really dark contrast, and so Shadow was given fangs, while Sonic did not have fangs. Bring the fangs back. What is going on? I'm sorry, I'm just gonna keep saying this. I don't care. I'm one of the biggest fang defenders when it comes to Sonic characters. Why are we getting rid of them? Give it back to Knuckles. Give it back to Shadow. I think Rouge still has hers. I don't know why she's allowed to have hers because she's a bat, right? Okay, but Knuckles is an echidna. He can have his fangs too. It doesn't matter. Shadow's a hedgehog. Hedgehogs have little teethies. Give him his fangs back, bro. It just adds to him being a dark contrast of Sonic. Just give it back to him. Damn. Something else that I really like about the contrast between Shadow and Sonic is Shadow is more of like an upside down triangle compared to Sonic being more just like a oval type shaped body. So Shadow is buffer in his upper half compared to Sonic, which I personally think is such a cute difference between the two. It shows that Shadow's waist is snatched. No, it shows that Shadow is physically a bit more stronger than Sonic in that sense, but of course, Sonic is the organic form of speed, and Sonic is the organic being and the organic form of everything that Shadow is. Shadow is artificial. That is why compared to Sonic does not have rings around his wrist, rings around his ankles to prevent him from overdoing it with his powers, while Shadow has to have something that limits it. His inhibitor rings. I also love how Shadow has the fluffiest chest. It's just so cute, bro. I could die in that chest fluff. I love all of his voice actors. Kirk, for a while, of course, was not my favorite, but I believe everyone can share that sentiment that he probably wasn't a lot of people's favorite. He probably was for some people, but now Kirk has grown on me, and it's not even a fault of him. It was the voice direction. He wasn't, when he did those Q&As before Dark Beginnings came out, when they had that panel at Anime Expo, we finally got more more insight into why Kirk was not able to nail the Shadow voice like David Humphrey had or Jason Griffith. We were finally able to understand why he wasn't able to get it, because he wasn't told who Shadow was. He wasn't told Shadow's backstory. He wasn't told the depth of who Shadow was. And of course, if you don't know a character, how are you supposed to know how to convey that emotion, how to convey that kind of personality through a voice if you just don't know who they are? So it was never a fault on Kirk's behalf. And now that we got Dark Beginnings, and now that we have Sonic X Shadow Generations, we now have a more perfected delivery of Shadow's voice. And I have to say, Kirk may have to be one of my favorite Shadow VAs. The way he says Maria, and this is not a diss on any of the other ones, the way he says Maria is just my favorite. It just feels so soft, it feels so sincere. I there might be a compilation video out there on YouTube of like David Humphrey saying Maria, and then Jason Griffith saying Maria, and then Kirk saying Maria. There probably is. Just personally, compared to the other two, I just love Kirk's delivery of Maria. If Kirk's my second favorite, Jason has to be my first, and that's only because I grew up with Sonic X. I grew up with Sonic X Shadow, and that is who I think of when I think of Shadow, and I love Jason's Shadow. And also, David is amazing at Shadow. I mean, he made Shadow's voice what Shadow's voice is. I didn't personally grow up with David's Shadow, so I don't have as much sentimental value towards that, but I will always give him his flowers. I will always give him credit. It's honestly, screw favorites. I love all of them. I love all of them. They're amazing. But I guess I have a bit more nostalgia bias towards Jason just because that's what I grew up with, and it's just, yes, when I think of Shadow, his specific phrases, I think of Jason. But the reason why I do like Kirk so much more now is because Kirk's voice just matches that old soul aspect of what Shadow is chronologically, and I think the common agreement is Shadow is ageless, so he doesn't have an age, but chronologically he is about 50 plus years old. But I will always see Shadow as this old man, and personally I just think Kirk matches that old soul complex nature of Shadow, just his stoic nature. I feel like he matches it to a T, and I can't wait to hear more of how Kirk is going to approach Shadow in future game titles. Now I have to talk about some of Shadow's character quirks, because I can't talk about Shadow in this video without talking about him with guns and a motorcycle. I am so happy that we are getting that in movie 3, and next week when he wields a gun and rides on that fucking motorcycle, I'm going to scream. I was 6 years old when I played Shadow of 5. My mom was not a fan. My mom was not a fan of Shadow's foul language by any means, but I was allowed to play that game because it was Shadow. It was Sonic characters. And when I was 6 years old, I thought Shadow with a gun and a motorcycle was peak. Now I'm 22 years old. Is that 16 years later? And I still think Shadow with a gun and a motorcycle is one of the best peakest combos Shadow could ever have. And let me explain my reasoning when it comes to Shadow having a gun. The reason why I like Shadow with a gun is because it was the one thing that took Maria away from him. And again, that theme of what we talked about Shadow correcting the wrongdoings, these things that were thrust upon him, taking responsibility for those things, even though he didn't have to. He takes those things and he gives it his own meaning and uses it how he sees fit. That's why I appreciate Shadow using guns. It's just another character quirk. It's not like he needs them. He doesn't need them. He just likes to use them. And that's the whole point of a character quirk. A lot of characters don't need something, but they use it because they like to do so. Shadow doesn't need his motorcycle, but he looks completely badass on a motorcycle, and I think he knows that too, so that's why he uses a motorcycle. So the same logic, and even a deeper thing with it is him using guns. He's able to wield wield a gun how he sees fit, use it how he sees right, and use it in a way, just reclaiming his trauma, being able to use it in the way that he sees is right. And that's why I personally like Shadow with guns. I mean, 6-year-old me could not six-year-old me could not explain why I like Shadow with guns. There is no way I was going to be able to like say it that way. But now that I'm like 22, I stand by 6-year-old Julian. I stand by 6-year-old Valentine's. And yes, that shit is so fucking cool. And I'm so happy that we get to see that in movie 3. So thankful about that. But also, I know it was a Twitter takeover thing for a while, but now it's canonical that Shadow loves coffee. In Sonic X Shadow Generations, when you talk to Maria, she mentions something about how Shadow only drinks black coffee, and that it just feels so right. It feels so right. And that makes me so happy, because that definitely is his vibe. That matches his vibe, that old soul. I view Shadow as this guy that just sits in a comfy recliner at home. If he has a home, sits in a comfy recliner at home. Everything's dimly lit. There's barely any light. There is light, but it's a moody atmosphere with warm tone lighting, and he's sitting in a room that is filled with scents of florals and lavender, and he's just sitting there cross-legged. He's sitting there cross-legged and reading an educational book, and he is sipping sips of his black coffee. That is how I see Shadow. That's the vibe I get from him, and I just love that so much. And I love the fan art of Shadow in suits, and I think that's what it is. Shadow's he's a very elegant. He talks very elegantly. When he refers to Eggman, he refers to him as Doctor. He doesn't call him by Eggman. He's more of a formal dude when it comes to how he talks. He talks in complete sentences. And like, no. Yes, like he's straight to the point. He uses big words. He seems very professional. I just love seeing fan art of him in a suit. This is why it's so freaking amazing that Keanu is voicing him. It was meant to be. They're just meant for each other. John Wick in a suit, having a gun, driving cool ass black chrome cars. Like, he's literally him. They're meant for each other, and that's why I love to see Shadow in a suit. I loved that. That has to be like my favorite genre of fan art. Again, Sonic fan artists, if you want to draw me more of Shadow in a suit, like, I'll love you forever. Okay. Another aspect that I love about Shadow is it seems like the people that he holds closest to him all tend to be women. I don't know if that's because Maria, I don't know if that's because of Maria. Well, and then hold on. I have to mention Omega. But Omega is a non-binary king, so it still works, okay? My point still stands. The closest people that he holds to him, it's like the people that he looks more fondly on are all girls. And I genuinely wonder if that goes back to him and his bond with Maria. Maybe that's just what feels more familiar to him. I just find it very cute and sweet. I love his dynamic with Team Dark. It's just this ragtag, and I made a video about Team Dark. If you want to go back and watch my video, Team Dark Needs More, go ahead. It's my favorite team when it comes to Sonic. It's just this ragtag group of characters that just bonded through their rebellious nature, just going away from the status quo, figuring out what they want specifically. They just bonded together, and they love working together because they see it as fun and rewarding. They have very special bonds, and I'm so happy we got to see that again in Dark Beginnings. Predicted another thing! Anyway. Also, I cannot leave this out. The Doom powers are so amazing. And Shadow with wings is just so beautiful. 60 years old, saying he is so gorgeous with those wings. I can't leave that out. It's one of my favorite things from Shadow now. It's amazing. I love it so much. I'm just so thankful that we got a redemption of Shadow's character. Just for so long. And it's not just him. For so long, he was just a caricature of himself. And it's just so funny and weird how it was like Sonic Boom tended to be the blueprint for Shadow's character for so long, even though those characters were supposed to be comedic in nature. It wasn't supposed to be something that was supposed to be taken seriously. I'm just so happy that we've gotten over that, and I hope it sticks. I hope it stays. I'm so thankful that we've gotten over that, and I'm so excited to see where they take Shadow's character furthermore, because it seems like, especially in Sonic and Shadow Generations, we may be leaving that aspect of him being so interconnected with his trauma, which is something that I find very interesting, because the common theme of the three hedgehogs, which is Sonic, Shadow, and Silver, is Sonic is defined by the present, Shadow is defined by the past, and Silver is defined by the future. For future character arcs for Shadow, I'm wondering how they're going to keep that core kind of like story arc and character arc of him being tied to the past, being so interwoven with what has happened to him in the past. I wonder what they're going to do in the future. I'm very interested to see where they're going to take that. And again, like my personal theory with my review of Sonic and Shadow Generations, I genuinely think they might, if Sonic Frontiers 2 is actually true, that's actually true, I genuinely think they might explore more of the Black Arms lore and tie it to the ancients, and that way that character focus of Shadow's character being tied to the past, it's still going to coincide with his character, right? It's still being tied to the past. Three hedgehogs, Shadow specifically, him being past, and if they're bringing back Silver, then of course they're probably going to stick with that for Shadow. I also genuinely feel like that's not something you can remove from Shadow. That's literally what Shadow's character is, and there is nothing wrong with that. He can heal, and he can move on. Shadow is, at the end of the day, a truly tragic character, but that doesn't mean, by how his character is, he's not held back by that. Even though that is something that is innately woven into who he is, he's not held back by it. It does define him, but it's more of a good definition than a bad definition, because he's made it that way. We'll see if my theory's right, and it's not just my theory. It's a lot of other people. It's not just me. A lot of people were connecting the dots, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is probably what's going to happen." But once I think about it, yeah, it seems like the most reasonable direction that they're going to do. And you know what? Give it to me. I would love to see it. If it is true that Black Doom is able to come back, and I forget who said it. Everybody was talking about it on Twitter for a while. I think it was one of the people who created Shadow. I don't know who it is. Tell me in the comments, because I know this was said, that Black Doom is Shadow's Eggman. You get what I'm saying? That's what they were saying. If it is true that Black Doom can always come back if he has a vessel to, Black Arms DNA, Black Arms remnants, if it really is that thing of as long as Shadow's alive, Black Doom has a vessel to come back in, that goes so it goes so hard. It goes so hard. And if that is the case, then of course, like I said, then Shadow would go to Chaos Island or something. He would go to the Starfall Islands, and he would have to figure out how to actually get that to not be the case. Bro, that is so peak. That is like one of the coolest stories. Give it to me right now. Like I said before, Shadow is one of those characters where I do not relate to 100%, but of course I get him. I get his struggle. I get his pain. I sympathize with his trauma. And there are probably plenty of people that actually can relate to him. They can relate. They've been through similar situations. I guess I can say I do relate in a sense. I mean, with my disability, I didn't ask for it. And it wasn't something that I wanted. It wasn't something that I asked for. But I mean, that's more so kind of like Maria. So I relate more to Maria. I resonate with Shadow. Shadow is just, I just love this guy. I love him so much. Words cannot describe how much I love this character. I will be 60 something years old saying that Shadow is one of the best video game characters of all time. He's just so badass. He's just so cool. No, I'm going to be an old lady. I'm going to dye my hair red and black. I'm going to have black hair with red tips. And I'm just going to be the coolest old lady in town. I'm going to have my Shadow plushies. I'm going to try my best to keep them in good condition, and I'm just gonna be in a wheelchair, and I'm just gonna have those Shadow plushies sit on my lap, and I'm gonna be the coolest old lady in the nursing home. Anyway, we still have yet to see how they're going to approach Shadow's character with Sonic Movie 3. Very excited. God bless you, Keanu. Oh my gosh, God bless you, Keanu Reeves. I have faith in, is it Jeff Fowler? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Very excited to watch that movie next week. Gonna be that one woman, all giddy. My mom is coming with me to the theater. I don't think my mom is gonna watch this video, but she supports me, don't get me wrong. She just doesn't understand the Sonic stuff, so I get it. If she's watching this video, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry for how I react next to you in the theater. I don't think she really cares. Anyway, I'm gonna have a blast. I'm gonna have a good time. Hope anybody who's seen the movie will have a blast as well, because I'm gonna go feral. Anyway, I might make another character commentary on Shadow sometime, especially if we're going to get more content for him in the future with future game titles, but I love him. I love Shadow the Hedgehog. I love him to death. I love him to bits. I love Shadow. I know a lot of other people do. I hope this video could kind of convey how much I love him. I'm so giddy about him. I love him so much. Anyway, to end out this video, to anyone watching, have a good day and have a good night. Bye-bye.